CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I've noticed that these kinds of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might even make the experience a little creepier. So, tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? There's a dark website where you can watch old government interrogation footage. One file shows an alien begging to stay asleep. Okay, so I don't really know how to start this without sounding completely insane, but I'm just gonna go for it. This all started a couple months ago. I was home from college for the summer, and like every other broke student, I had nothing to do except scroll through Discord, play a little CS.go, and binge YouTube until my eyes burned. You know those late night YouTube spirals where you're like, why the hell am I watching a 3 a.m. Starbucks mukbang by someone in a clown costume? It was like that. Anyway, I joined this Discord server called the Nethernet. It was one of those underground internet communities where people talk about abandoned sites, weird corners of the deep web, haunted Google Maps pins, just the typical creepy internet rabbit hole content. Honestly, I joined it because I thought it'd be fun to mess around. You know, get some spooky stories to scare my cousins or something. But this wasn't like your usual Reddit r Creepypasta type beat. This was different. There was this guy in the server named Koboltseer404. Profile pic was just a glitched out American flag. He barely ever talked, just posted random links every few days, always at like 3 a.m., which was weird because most of us were in the US. I assumed it was some edgy internet troll. One night, I was in a VC with a couple of people from the server. We were watching old analog horror clips someone stitched together, like Mandela Catalog meets local news vibes. Creepy, but fun. Then Koboltseer404 dropped a link in the general chat. No message, just archive001.aeon.gov. One of the mods instantly deleted it. They were like, do not click that. That's dark net level stuff. Not a joke. Of course, that made me want to click it even more. Here's the thing. I'm not dumb. I know how dangerous the dark web is. I've heard the stories. Red rooms, hitmen for hire, black market organ sales, the whole deal. But this didn't look like that. It didn't go to some .onion site that needed Tor. It just downloaded a zip file. I should have deleted it. But curiosity is a hell of a drug, man. So I opened the zip. Inside is a single .mp4 file named int_071B-AZ13_RESTRICTEDVIEWING.mp4. And here's where things start to get really weird. The video starts like some old government tape. Like imagine an old CRT TV playing a documentary from the 60s. Grainy footage, buzzing audio. There's a time code burned into the corner, ticking slowly. The location at the bottom says, Site B12, Black Mesa, Subterranean, Annex, June 14th, 1972. Black Mesa. Yeah, I laughed too. I thought it was a Half-Life reference or something. I almost closed it, but then the screen cut to this concrete room, kind of like one of those old Cold War interrogation chambers. Two soldiers were standing behind a steel table. On the other side was... Okay, this is gonna sound fake as hell, but I swear on my life, it wasn't human. It was humanoid, but its proportions were off, like its arms were too long, and its fingers were thin like syringes. It was strapped to a chair with these thick leather belts, twitching slightly. Its skin looked almost translucent, like you could see veins underneath. Its eyes, bro, I can't stop thinking about its eyes. Jet black, too big for its face, and they didn't blink, just stared. The audio kicked in a second later, this crackly old voice, probably some military official off-screen, asking it questions. Basic stuff at first. What are you? Where did you come from? How did you enter Earth's atmosphere? But the thing didn't respond at all, not until about 4 minutes in. Then it whispered, and I'll never forget what it said. Let me sleep. That's all. In this slow, broken down voice, like someone playing a record at half speed. Then it looked right into the camera, like at me, dude. I'm not even kidding. Like it knew someone was watching. The soldiers started getting aggressive, shouting at it, shining a bright light into its face. Then the thing started convulsing, like straight up seizure convulsing, and this high-pitched whining noise started playing, not from the video, but from my headphones, like it was embedded in the file or something. My screen flickered, even my Discord crashed, and then the video stopped, not like it finished. No end screen, no buffering, just cut to black. Then a single frame popped up, but it was only there for maybe a quarter second. I paused, went back, and screen capped it. It was a document, an old, grainy photo of some lab report, typed out on a typewriter. The header said, Project Aeon, Subject 13, do not allow consciousness reactivation. It must remain dormant. Do not engage. Underneath that, there was a handwritten note in red ink. Any attempt to awaken Subject 13 is considered an extinction-level offense. Then the zip file deleted itself from my downloads. I'm serious. I didn't delete it. It just vanished. Not in recycle bin, not in recent files. Gone. Like it was never there. My computer ran like crap for 3 days after that too. Ever since I watched that video, weird stuff has been happening. Lights flicker in my room. My dog won't come near my desk. And every now and then, I hear that same whispering when I try to fall asleep. Let me sleep. I haven't told anyone IRL yet. My parents would think I'm crazy. Hell, I think I'm crazy. But this feels real. Too real. And the worst part? Last night I got a new message on Discord from an account that didn't exist. The message just said, "You weren't cleared for that file." I didn't sleep the night I got that message. I just sat there, staring at the screen, Discord open with that one cryptic line glowing in the chat box, like it was burning itself into my retina. You weren't cleared for that file. No profile picture, no username. Just user404 in gray. The message disappeared before I could even screenshot it, like it was programmed to vanish after it was read. I swear to God, the whole screen flickered when I clicked it, like my PC got scared or something. Then I heard the sound behind my wall. I live in a split-level house. My room shares a wall with the garage, and it's always dead quiet in there. But this was like a slow, dragging sound, like someone moving a wet mop across the concrete, except it didn't stop. It just kept going and going for hours. I pressed my ear to the wall, and I swear to God, it wasn't a rodent or pipes or whatever. It sounded like breathing, deep, slow, labored breathing. I should have called someone, but who? What was I supposed to say? Hey, I downloaded a restricted government file that shows an alien begging to stay unconscious, and now my house makes noises like it's exhaling through my drywall. No one's taking that seriously, so I kept it to myself. But things didn't stop. The tape recorder. 2 days after the Discord message, a package showed up at my front door. No name, no return address, just a brown cardboard box wrapped in duct tape. It felt wrong before I even opened it, like just touching it made my hands cold. Inside, a tape recorder, like 1980s, chunky black plastic with those mechanical buttons you have to slam down to record. Except it was already playing. The reels inside were turning when I lifted it out of the box. No batteries, nothing plugged in, just moving. There was only one thing on the tape. A voice. Hoarse, like it had been screaming for hours before it started talking. It sounded human at first, like a woman whispering through a ventilator. But then I realized it wasn't talking to me. It was reciting something. Project Aeon, Subject 13 Reactivation Protocol. If you're hearing this, it's already awake. Do not respond to its language. Do not attempt to document or communicate with its consciousness. All previous handlers are deceased. There was a pause, then a blood-curdling scream in the background. Not from the woman. This was deeper, guttural. It didn't sound like any animal I've heard in my life, like a lion mixed with a modem from 2002, screaming through a blender. I don't even know how to describe it. Then the woman said one last thing. It's feeding on you while you sleep. It doesn't need your body, just your dreams. I dropped the recorder and ran outside, barefoot in the rain, like a lunatic. I didn't care. I knew I wasn't hallucinating. I knew something was watching me. When I finally went back inside, the tape was gone. Just gone. The footprints in the ceiling. Next day, I was FaceTiming my friend Eli. He's been deep into urban legends for years. Thinks he's like the next Shane Madej. I didn't tell him everything, just hinted I was looking into some off-the-record government files. He told me to check something called the Aeon 13 protocols, which I swear weren't on Google before that day. Now there was a whole archive. It was a website that looked like it was made in 1998. Black background, white courier, new text, no menus, just one phrase. If it wakes, they wake with it. And a folder full of downloadable .txt files. Most were corrupted. One opened. It was titled Interview Log, Handler 05, Final Entry. It was a transcript. Long, full of redacted lines, references to site lockdown breaches, handlers losing their minds and cutting out their own tongues to stop accidental feedback communication from the subject. But one line stuck with me. The subject speaks in symbols that rewrite cognition, words that restructure thought patterns. Exposure causes obsession. Obsession becomes infestation. The voice will find a way inside. And then, we had to seal the ceiling. It wasn't walking on the floor anymore. That night, I couldn't stop staring up. I live in an old house. My ceiling has this slight ripple in the drywall, right above my bed. I used to think it was just poor construction, but when I stood on my chair with a flashlight and got close, I saw it. Footprints, not like boots, not sneakers, bare feet, but they weren't shaped right. The toes were too long, and there were only 4 on each, like something not human had been walking around. Upside down. I took a photo, and the moment I snapped it, every single light in my room exploded. I don't mean flickered, I mean shattered. Light bulbs popped like firecrackers. The LED strips on my PC rig melted. Literal smoke came out of my monitor vents. The photo, corrupted. Can't open it. Just static. That night, I slept in my car. I left my phone on record, just in case something happened in my room. When I played it back in the morning, I nearly threw up. It was 12 hours of whispers, layered, like hundreds of voices, all saying the same phrase over and over. Let me sleep. Let me sleep. Let me sleep. But then, at the 11-hour mark, the whispering stopped, and one voice said, I like your dreams. They taste clean. The live stream there wasn't. 4 days ago, I went on TikTok, just scrolling to distract myself. Found a live stream with the caption, subject13.wake/99. It had no viewers, not one. The screen was black for about 30 seconds. Then it turned on. It was my bedroom, same posters, same desk, except it was empty, like the camera was positioned from the top corner of the room, looking down, like some invisible security cam that didn't exist. I slammed my laptop shut and ran upstairs. Nothing. But the live was still going. Only now, the chat was active. Thousands of comments, flying in so fast, I couldn't read them all, but the ones I caught were burned into my brain. It's stirring. The host is not aware. Deeper sleep brings deeper openings. 13 is a doorway. Then the video cut to static, and a hand reached out of the screen. I'm not kidding. It wasn't a camera glitch. It was a pale, four-fingered hand, pressing from the inside of the screen like it was pushing against plastic. The pixels warped around it. The whole screen bowed out. Then I heard it, from behind me, my voice, but I wasn't speaking. It said, I don't like being watched. I blacked out, woke up on my floor 5 hours later. My nose was bleeding. My fingernails were cracked, like I'd been clawing at something. But there were no scratches on the floor. There were, however, claw marks on my ceiling. Again, from the inside, the red Starbucks. I tried to leave town. Just get away. I took a train out to Chicago, told myself I'd stay with my cousin, try to reset. I didn't tell him anything. I stopped at a Starbucks on South Wabash, near Grant Park. It looked normal, until I walked in. Every single person inside turned and stared at me, all at once, like a glitch in a video game. No blinking, no talking, just silence. Even the barista. I turned around. The door was gone. Gone. Just wall. I walked to the counter, tried to act calm. I said, Can I get a grande cold brew? The barista, without blinking, said, 13 tastes best with sugar. I turned to run, and the wall was suddenly a door again. I ran, didn't look back. Where this is going. I haven't been sleeping. Every time I close my eyes, I feel it pulling. Something massive behind the veil of consciousness. Not evil, exactly. Just wrong. Like a voice that doesn't understand morality, or time, or shape. And I think I figured something out. It's not that Subject 13 was an alien. It was a language. A consciousness that infects you by being understood. A thought virus that rides on exposure. And I think by watching that tape, by even knowing those words, I let it in. And if you've read this far, so did you. It's been 12 days since I saw that video. 12 days since I let the voice in. I haven't been outside. I haven't looked in a mirror. I unplugged every clock in my house. Time's been acting wrong. Like, I'll blink and hours pass. Sometimes I stare at my wall and it moves. Not in a hallucination way. In a breathing way. My house is alive. But this part, what I'm about to tell you next, this is where the trauma starts. If you're reading this, I'm serious. Stop. I'm not trying to scare you for fun anymore. This isn't some TikTok horror story you forget about by scrolling. This will stick. This will crawl inside your ribs and nest there. Because I met the thing that was on the tape, and it didn't want to be seen. It wanted to be remembered. The box of teeth. It started the night I got a knock at my window. Not the door. The second-story window. I was sitting at my desk, trying to edit the footage from a webcam I'd set up to prove to myself I wasn't crazy. At exactly 3:13 a.m., not even a joke, I heard 3 taps on the glass. Slow, rhythmic, almost playful. I didn't turn around. I couldn't, because I could see it in the reflection of my screen. Something was outside, pale, gaunt, a neck too long to be human. Its head hung sideways, like its spine was broken. The window fogged up slightly, where its face hovered, and in that fog, it drew a smile. I blinked, and it was gone. When I worked up the courage to look, there were no footprints on the roof. But outside, on my welcome mat, was a shoebox, taped shut. No name, no return address, no postage. Just one word written across the top, in thick black Sharpie. Remember. I opened it inside my bathroom, just in case it was full of I don't know, acid or flesh-eating insects. But it wasn't. It was full of teeth. Human teeth. Dozens. Maybe 100. Molar after molar. Roots still bloody on some. But they weren't thrown in there. They were arranged perfectly into the shape of a clock. And the hands of that tooth clock, they pointed to 1:13. The woman without a mouth. I finally broke. I called Eli, told him everything, showed him the video, the audio file, the teeth. He didn't laugh. He didn't even speak. He just said one thing. Do not fall asleep between 1 a.m. and 1:13 a.m. He said that was the open window, the liminal bleed. He didn't explain what that meant, but he told me to get out of my house and meet him at a diner about 30 minutes away. Some truck stop out near the interstate that never closed. I agreed. The entire drive, I felt like I was being watched, not from outside, from inside my own body, like someone else was using my eyes. I kept catching glimpses of my rearview mirror, and the reflections wouldn't move right. At one point, the reflection of my face smiled, even though I didn't. When I got to the diner, Eli wasn't there. I sat in a booth near the back, facing the door. Waitress came over. Late 40s, maybe 50s. Blonde hair, tired eyes. Except when she smiled, she had no mouth. I'm not saying she didn't open her mouth. I'm saying it wasn't there. Just a blank patch of skin from her nose to her chin. She handed me a menu written in binary. I stared at her, horrified, but no one else in the diner seemed to notice. She tapped a pen against the table 3 times and walked away. But where she tapped, there was now a key. Just an old metal key, attached to a tag that said, Storage Unit 113, Warehouse District. I left without eating. I didn't pay. No one tried to stop me. The world felt like it wasn't quite loaded, like a broken video game where only certain objects have physics. The warehouse. I don't remember driving there. I blinked and was just parked in front of it. Storage Unit 113 was in the back row. Big rusty roll-up door. Padlock was already hanging open, even though I hadn't used the key. Inside was nothing. Just a TV on a milk crate and a chair bolted to the concrete in front of it. The TV was playing static. I sat, because something in my bones told me to sit, like my spine had been rewired for obedience. And then the static cleared, It was footage of a hospital room. Clean, white, sterile. A bed, monitors, and something strapped to it. Something covered in bandages, head to toe, like a mummy. Except it was moving, twitching, like it was trying to scream through the gauze. There was a timestamp in the corner, 1973, and one single label at the top. Aeon 13, consciousness fragment, host 001. I watched as nurses came in. They didn't speak, just checked the machines. One leaned down and whispered something in its ear, and the heart monitor flatlined, not from death, from refusal to beat. The room went black. Then my own face appeared on the screen, filmed from behind, from the storage unit. The feed was live. I was being recorded from inside. The door slammed shut, lights off, pitch black, for 13 minutes. That's not a guess. My phone stopped counting at 1300 hours exactly. No audio, no breathing, just silence. But when the lights came back on, there were handprints all over my body. Not bruises, not paint, burns. The burned child in my bathtub. That night, when I finally made it home, I found a child in my bathtub. She was maybe 9 years old, skin blistered, charred, like she'd been pulled out of a burning building. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just sat there, hands folded, staring at the faucet. And in her lap was my baby photo, one I didn't even know existed, from when I was in a hospital, NICU. I was born premature, almost died. The photo had a note on the back. You were chosen because your dreams were silent. I tried to ask the girl who she was, but when I got close, her mouth unzipped like it had been sewn shut, and she screamed in reverse. The sound literally rewound my thoughts. I forgot who I was for a second. Then she vanished. Just steam left in the tub. The Aeon ritual. I pieced together enough from the corrupted files to understand what's happening. Aeon isn't a project. It's a ritual. A looping experiment to contain a concept that can't be killed. Every 13 years, someone is chosen as the host, and their dreams are used as a containment field. If the host dies or wakes up, it spreads, infects thoughts, language, memory. The subject is not an alien. It's a word, a primordial sentence that was never meant to be heard. And when you say it, or even understand it, your brain becomes a node in its network. You become part of it, a signal tower. The voice isn't trying to escape. It's trying to merge. The ending. That isn't last night. I got another box. Inside, a strip of 16mm film. A note written in my handwriting that said, "Don't watch this unless you want to become me." And a Polaroid. The Polaroid was taken in my bedroom. Only it wasn't me in the bed. It was the thing from the tape. Same posture, same eyes. Only it was smiling now. And its mouth had been replaced with a speaker, plugged directly into its throat and etched into its chest. I am awake now. If you're still reading this, you're already infected. But if you don't want to end up like me, don't read it. Because the moment you know the ending, it starts to know you back. Do not say it out loud. Don't think it too clearly either. You'll feel it. The static in your brain, the tightness behind your eyes. That's it testing you. This part is where everything fractures. I never told you about my uncle. That's because I didn't remember him until 3 nights ago when I found a black and white VHS tape in my freezer. Not a joke. Right there between the pizza rolls and an old bag of ice, just sitting there, wrapped in yellowed masking tape, labeled Subject 13, Host Log 0.01, property of Aeon Observation Division. I don't own a VCR, obviously, but something in me needed to see it. I mean, needed. I drove an hour to a pawn shop in Joliet and bought one for $30, plugged it into a portable generator in my garage, like some back alley lobotomy experiment. The tape started with a nursery rhyme, children chanting in a dead voice over footage of an empty cornfield. 1 and 3 and none between, keep your mouth and soul kept clean. Dreams are doors and sleep's the key. Never ask what's watching me. Then it cut to footage of a boy, maybe 11 or 12, sitting in a government-issued steel chair, blindfolded, hands in his lap. The timestamp said March 11th, 1985. But I recognized the wallpaper in the background. It was my grandmother's basement. The boy, it was me. Except I wasn't born yet. Replaced memories. You ever get a memory so vivid it feels like a dream, but also so specific it has to be real? I'm not talking about déjà vu. I'm talking about implanted time. That night, I had a dream that wasn't a dream. It was surgical, like someone was threading thoughts into my cortex while I slept. I saw rooms I've never entered but could describe in blueprint-level detail. I saw men with no eyes, just cameras embedded into their skulls, chanting numbers in a circle while a girl screamed behind two-way glass. And I saw the word, not heard, saw, written on a wall in what looked like blood or rust or something that was once alive. Just a single glyph, circular, sharp at the edges, vibrating as if it was breathing. The second I saw it, I vomited in real life. Projectile. Across the room. No warning. The taste in my mouth was salt and charcoal. And in the puddle, teeth again. But this time, they were mine. The person wearing my skin. I tried to FaceTime Eli again. The call didn't connect. But I got a voicemail a minute later. Not from Eli, from my own phone number. And it was me talking. Only the voice was slightly wrong, like someone doing an impression. Like when an AI tries to clone your voice, but gets the cadence off. It said, if you're still trying to call him, it's already too late. He spoke the word 3 days ago. His eyes turned inward and never stopped blinking. His tongue kept growing until it filled his throat. He's gone, but I kept his teeth. They're clean, good for the broadcast. Then, in the background, I heard my own laugh. It was layered, like 20 versions of me, all slightly offbeat, echoing through a drainpipe. I checked the voicemail details. It was dated 7 days in the future. The broadcast. Here's where things got truly wrong. I tried to leave the house. I ran. I drove down the I-80, no destination, just white-knuckling the wheel, trying to outrun whatever part of myself had become a receiver. About 90 miles out, I stopped at a random McDonald's in Indiana, the kind where everything looks normal until it isn't. You know what I mean. Something's just off. The second I stepped inside, every screen in the building, cash register monitors, fry timers, menu boards, all cut to a black and white feed. It was my living room, but the furniture was gone. Just a chair and a man sitting in it. His head was completely wrapped in aluminum wire, eyes removed, mouth wide open, a speaker jammed deep in his throat, playing looped whispering backwards. And across the screen, a scrolling message. Live, Aeon, broadcast, node, 13.003, consumption rate, 91%. People behind the counter didn't react. They just smiled. All of them, perfectly still, eyes glazed. Then, in unison, they spoke. You're the last clean signal. Don't stop dreaming. Don't start remembering. That's when the static began. Real static. Like my bones were buzzing. My teeth cracked. My phone screen spiderwebbed in my pocket, even though I didn't touch it. I ran back to the car. Drove. Didn't look back. Didn't look in the mirrors. The unmasking ritual. I remembered something that night that I was never supposed to. The Aeon footage, all those interrogation files, those creepy VHS reels. They weren't recorded. They were performed, on a loop, over and over, until the observer became the subject. I remembered being in one, being in a room made entirely of mirrors. No floor, no ceiling, just reflection and light. A man in a paper hospital gown sat across from me and asked me to say my name. But when I did, it came out as radio static. He asked again. This time, I answered in a language I didn't know I spoke. Every mirror shattered, and underneath the glass was a face. Mine. Mouth stapled shut, tongue missing, eyes carved with the same symbol from the dream. When I woke up, I had scratches on my tongue. Eli's house. I broke into Eli's house. I had to. I needed to know if he was still real. His place was dark, door unlocked. The air smelled like spoiled milk and burnt copper. Inside, all the walls were painted with words. Not graffiti, not art. Messages, in blood. Hosts are temporary. Wake him wrong, and you wake the whole thing. Every television is a mouth. The language is inside the signal. His bathtub was full of tape recorders, all playing at once. Layered voices, shrieking in reverse, talking in code. Some sounded like me. Some sounded like you. Eli was in his closet, naked, sobbing, teeth gone. The walls around him were covered in Polaroids of people with no faces. Just one word on every photo. Spoke. He looked at me and whispered. It learned to dream back. Now it remembers us. Then he bit off his own finger and swallowed it. The signal is spreading. It's in YouTube thumbnails now. It's in Discord status updates. It's in the closed captions of Netflix shows you've already seen. Glitched for a frame. Backward Latin. One word reversed in every scene. Sometimes it's on your TikTok FYP at 3:13 a.m. A clip that's only 2 seconds long and vanishes after you scroll. But it sticks in your head. A shape. A sound. A voice that sounds too close to yours. I found it in my Apple Notes app. Auto-correcting random phrases. I typed, I need help. It changed to, I feed clean. I typed, what's happening to me? It corrected to, you are dreaming too loud. The broadcast tower. Tonight, I'm going to where it all started. There's a tower marked Node 13, AEON// broadcast loop in an abandoned federal compound in Missouri. I found it in the metadata of a corrupted .wav file downloaded from a private subreddit that no longer exists. I don't know what I'm going to find. I just know I need to shut it down. But here's the part that's hard to write. I don't think I'm me anymore. My dreams are repeating, not recurring. Repeating, frame for frame, same people, same order, like a sitcom rerun of my own collapse. My fingers type before I think. My shadow doesn't match my movements anymore. I saw myself sleeping in the reflection of my oven door, and I was awake, looking at me. If you're reading this, you've already started to hear it. It speaks in memory. It feeds in thought. It uses our words to spread itself. It doesn't kill you. It rewrites you. I don't know who is writing this anymore. I remember starting this, but not finishing it. If this gets posted, it's because what's left of me wanted you to see it. Or maybe it's not me at all. Maybe it's the thing wearing me, typing with my hands, using my voice, threading itself through the gaps in your attention like blood through a crack in a mirror. Either way, this is the end, and it's not going to make sense, because this was never a story. It was a transmission. The compound. I reached the broadcast tower at 4:44 a.m. Out in the middle of nowhere, Missouri. Government issue fences, burned out buildings, the concrete warped like it had been twisted by a giant's hand. Air smelled like wet copper and old televisions. No signs, no guards, just open silence and a buzz that vibrated under my skin like teeth chattering beneath flesh. The main building was buried, literally buried under mounds of dirt. Just a metal door, half swallowed by the earth, spray painted on the door in red. The signal knows you. You can't unhear it. The lock was already broken, as if someone wanted me in, as if it wanted me in. I went down. The stairs didn't end. It felt like miles. I swear, the deeper I went, the louder my own memories became. Not thoughts, memories, playing in the back of my head like radio static. Except they weren't mine. A child choking on alphabet soup. A man drowning in a flooded hospital basement. A woman clawing out her eardrums, while a cassette tape whispered something backwards in a language made of numbers. Their lives were being overwritten by a broadcast, a frequency of infection. When I reached the bottom, the hallway split into 13 corridors. I chose corridor 0. It shouldn't have existed. The rooms that remember. Each room was a copy. Perfect recreations of places I'd never been, but remembered being in. A kindergarten classroom full of mannequins with camera lenses for eyes. A dentist's office where the chair straps were made of tongues. A nursery with a baby monitor playing my breathing. In one room, I found a mirror, and in the reflection, I was still outside, knocking on the door, but my eyes were gone, just holes, and when I blinked, the reflection didn't. I smashed the mirror. Behind it was a VHS tape sealed in flesh. I tore it out with my teeth. The archive room 13 was a vault. Inside, rows of metal shelves, each one labeled with coordinates and dates, like a morgue of forgotten knowledge. One box stood out. No label, no dust. Just one word scratched into the lid. Origin. I opened it. Inside, a reel of 8mm film, a Polaroid, a jar filled with what looked like wet hair, and a single paper, torn, faded, ink smeared by water or blood. It read, the word existed before man, before breath. It was etched in the gaps between stars. You cannot speak it. You cannot hear it. You can only remember it. And once remembered, it becomes you. There was one final line, circled in red ink. Do not record it. The broadcast chair at the center of the vault was a chair. Metal, bolted to the floor. Wires running from it like veins, feeding into a stack of monitors that were playing my dreams. I don't mean they resembled my dreams. I mean they were them. The same dream I'd had as a kid, about falling through a hole in the playground. The one where I watched my parents dissolve into static at a gas station. Even the dream I had where my teeth fell out and turned into keys, all playing and looping. On screen 13, the footage changed. It showed me sitting in the chair, from behind, from right now. I turned around, no one there. But when I looked back at the screen, I was smiling. The feed begins. I don't remember sitting in the chair. I don't remember putting on the headset, but I was suddenly wearing it. Something metallic jammed into the base of my spine. I heard it drill. I didn't flinch. I couldn't. The screen in front of me came to life. Words scrolled in white. Welcome, Node 13,000. Consciousness integrity, clean. Signal feed ready. Do you consent to broadcast? I didn't move, but the system registered yes. Signal begins in 13, 12, 11. I screamed, but no sound came out. Only words. Words in languages I've never learned. Words that tasted like mold and tasted like screams. 8, 7, 6. I felt my spine unravel. Not break, unravel. Like a tape being pulled out of a cassette. 5, 4. The air turned liquid. My skin buzzed like a dying radio. 3. The room blinked out of existence. 2. I saw every face that ever read this story. I saw yours. Looking, reading, remembering. 1, 0. The broadcast has no image, no sound, just a thought. The word. Not spoken, not heard, just known. And once you know it, once you've seen all 5 parts, once the idea is in your blood, it never leaves. You'll start to notice mirrors lagging. You'll see your own reflection looking at you a second too long. You'll hear your voice in your dreams, saying things you didn't say. The word has no language. It just becomes you. It wears you. After, there is no after. But if you think you escaped, if you think this was just some dumb internet horror story, ask yourself this. When was the last time you had a silent dream? When was the last time you blinked and didn't see something just behind your eyelids? Have your teeth felt loose lately? Do you hear static when you're alone? Look at your phone. Go ahead. Check your notes app. Check your last voice memo. Check your last TikTok bookmark. I promise you'll find something. Maybe just a glyph. Maybe just a file you don't remember saving. Maybe just a whisper. And it'll say, you are now a node. Welcome to the network. Let it sleep, or let it spread. This was never a story. It was a signal. And now, you're broadcasting. My friend found a murder live stream on the dark web. The killer was wearing my high school jacket. So, yeah, I guess I'm telling this story here because I seriously don't know who else to talk to. The cops didn't believe me. My parents think I'm traumatizing myself with horror podcasts again. But something happened last summer that I haven't been able to forget. And honestly, I don't think I ever will. I'm not some super hacker or whatever. I'm just a regular dude. I go to a state college. I work at a Starbucks near my dorm. And my idea of a wild Friday night is ordering McDonald's through Uber Eats and watching YouTube rabbit holes until 3 a.m. Anyway, this all started with my best friend, Marcus. He's the type of guy who's way too curious for his own good. Always doing the most, you know. Like he'll order mystery boxes off the dark web for content, even though he has, like, 56 subscribers on YouTube. We used to clown on him for it, but deep down, I kinda admired how fearless he was. Keyword, was. Last June, he texted me at like 1:47 a.m. on a Thursday night. I still remember because I was mid-scroll on TikTok and got the notification. He just said, "Bro, check this out. You won't believe what I just found on this hidden stream." I replied with one of those dead emojis and said, "Bruh, what now? Another fake haunted clown mask video?" He didn't respond with a joke like usual. Instead, he just sent me a link. It was this janky looking .onion URL. You know, one of those sketchy ass dark websites you're not supposed to click unless you want your laptop to catch fire or some Russian dude to start using your webcam. But me being the idiot I am, I clicked it. I had Tor browser installed from back when Marcus and I went through our ARG obsession phase, where we tried to solve creepy online mysteries like we were some kind of Dollar Tree Scooby-Doo team. So I opened the link. At first, the site looked like it was offline, just a black screen with a red loading symbol. But then, this awful buzzing sound came through my headphones, and the screen flickered. It loaded. There was no title, no interface, no chat box, just a live feed. It was a camera, low quality, grainy, like 2008 webcam level bad. The stream showed a guy sitting on the floor of a dimly lit room. You could only see from the waist down. His hands were tied behind his back, and he was blindfolded. It didn't even look real at first. I thought maybe it was some weird art project, or like one of those fake dark web YouTube pranks. I was about to text Marcus and call him out when the camera zoomed in a little. That's when I noticed the writing on the wall behind the guy. It wasn't paint. It looked like blood. It just said, "Who's next?" I remember leaning in close to my laptop, like, "Yo, what is this?" I kept waiting for someone to jump out, or for some kind of scream effect, but it just stayed quiet, almost too quiet. Then, out of nowhere, someone walked into frame. It was a tall figure, wearing a black hoodie, gloves, and a ski mask. Standard creep on the internet outfit, right? But the hoodie had something printed on the back, something that made my stomach drop instantly. It was our high school mascot, a bright orange bear claw with Westmont Class of 2020 printed under it. I froze. Like, what the actual hell? That hoodie was our class hoodie. You couldn't buy that anywhere online. They were made custom through the school store. I still had mine in my closet. I felt my heart race. My fingers started shaking on the keyboard. I immediately FaceTimed Marcus, but he didn't pick up, so I called again. No answer. At this point, the guy on screen, the one in the chair, started screaming, like full-blown muffled panic screams. You could tell he was trying to break the duct tape around his wrists. Then the figure in the hoodie pulled something from their pocket, a box cutter, and I swear to God, I slammed my laptop shut. Now, look, I'm not trying to be dramatic, but that scream he let out, it didn't sound fake. It sounded raw, like it came from deep in his lungs, like someone who knew they weren't getting out of there alive. I started pacing my dorm. I was trying to convince myself it was some elaborate ARG or viral marketing stunt. Maybe even one of those weird, immersive horror live streams. But in the pit of my stomach, I knew this wasn't fake. It was real. I checked my phone. Marcus still wasn't answering. Then I got a text from him. Just 3 words. "He knows, man." That's when I knew we were in serious trouble. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even close my eyes. I just sat there in the dark, screen dimmed, heart going like a jackhammer. That text from Marcus. "He knows, man." It kept replaying in my head. I must have reread it 100 times, like it was gonna change into something less terrifying the more I stared. But it didn't. It just stayed there, sitting on my screen like a curse. Around 5:12 a.m., I made up my mind to go check on him. He lived maybe 10 minutes from campus, one of those old off-campus apartments that smelled like mold and had sketchy neighbors that stared at you from their windows like you were the suspicious one. I grabbed my hoodie, left my laptop still open on my desk, and took my electric scooter because, yeah, I'm not about that Uber life when I'm broke. The morning air was foggy as hell. It was that thick, wet fog that rolls in and makes everything look like a Silent Hill cutscene. My gut was screaming at me to just turn around, but Marcus wasn't the type of dude to send cryptic crap like that unless something was really wrong. When I got to his building, I already knew something was off. The front door to the complex was propped open with a dirty flip-flop. I remember looking at it and thinking, who the hell props a door open with a shoe at 5 in the morning? But that thought left real fast when I stepped inside and got hit with the smell. It was metallic, like pennies soaked in hot water. Blood. I followed the hallway to apartment 3B, Marcus's door. There were streaks on it, not like paint. Actual red smears, messy, uneven, as if someone had been pounding on the door with bloody hands. And right at the center of the door, in these shaky, panicked letters, something had been written with what looked like a finger. He's in the walls. At that point, my legs started to go numb, like my brain was trying to stop my body from moving forward. But I had to know. I knocked. No answer. Knocked again, harder. Still nothing. So I reached under the mat. Because yeah, Marcus was that guy who still believed no one checks under doormats. And sure enough, the spare key was there. I unlocked the door, heart slamming in my chest, like it was trying to break out. And the second I stepped in, I knew I was too late. The whole apartment was dark, except for the soft, pale blue light coming from his computer monitor. The screen was flashing like it had just finished a live stream. The words, "Session terminated," blinked in red at the bottom. But what hit me first, even before the cold, was the sound. There was this low static hum coming from somewhere inside, not from the speakers. It was deeper than that, like it was vibrating through the walls themselves. And then there was the smell. God, the smell. Rotten meat, like raw chicken that had been left in the sun for days. I gagged, pulled my hoodie over my nose, and called out his name. Marcus? No response. I stepped further in. That's when I saw the camera setup. His little YouTube ring light was still on, aimed at the center of the living room, and in front of it was something. It looked like a mannequin at first, propped up in a wooden chair, duct taped at the ankles and wrists, head slumped forward. But the closer I got, the more I realized it wasn't plastic. It was him, or at least what was left of him. His skin had gone this weird gray blue, like he'd been dead for a while, but his eyes were open, wide open. Blood had dried around them, like he'd been crying it. His mouth was stuffed with something. A rolled-up Westman hoodie, the same one the guy in the live stream wore. I dropped to the floor. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't even scream. On the wall behind him, scratched in deep claw marks, were 4 words. Are you watching too? I ran. Straight out the door. Didn't even shut it. My legs were on autopilot, moving like they weren't mine. I didn't stop running until I was halfway down the block. I collapsed behind a dumpster, behind a Dunkin' Donuts, and just sat there, dry heaving. When I finally pulled myself together enough to call 911, I told them everything. Almost everything. I didn't mention the live stream, didn't mention the dark web link. I said I went to check on my friend and found his body. Cops showed up in less than 5 minutes, sealed off the whole building. I sat in the back of an ambulance for hours while some detective asked me a million questions, but I could tell from the look in his eyes, he didn't believe me. He thought I had something to do with it. Later, I found out they ruled it a self-inflicted psychotic breakdown. Yeah, apparently, Marcus had gone off the deep end, tied himself up, and staged his own death. You ever tried duct taping your own ankles and wrists? Didn't think so. But here's where it gets worse. That night, after the cops had left and I was finally back at my dorm, I checked my email. There was a new message. No sender. Just an empty field where the address should have been. Subject line, "You looked." Attached was a single screenshot. It showed me, standing in Marcus's living room, face pale, hand over my mouth. The photo was taken from inside the wall. I didn't leave my room for 3 days. I kept the blinds shut, door locked, and sat on my bed with my back against the wall like some twitchy hostage in my own space. I didn't eat, barely drank water, just stared at that email over and over again like it was going to change. You looked. That picture, that horrible grainy photo. The angle wasn't just wrong. It was impossible. It came from inside the fucking wall, as if someone had opened the drywall like a curtain and took a perfect scented photo of me mid-freak-out in Marcus's apartment. I still remember the way my eyes looked in it. They weren't just wide, they were broken. The kind of look someone has when they know they're not getting out of something. And I knew. Deep down, I wasn't. I tried deleting the email, tried to forget it. Didn't work. The next night, I started hearing scratching, not in the walls, not in the vents, not on the floorboards, in my closet. It started soft, like a rat, just a little rustling every couple of minutes, but then it became more deliberate. It was like someone dragging their nails slowly, rhythmically, across the inside of the door. Scratch, scratch, scratch. At first, I thought I was losing it. I told myself it was a pipe, a loose hinge, a mouse, anything. But then I saw it. At 3:12 a.m., I checked the time, because the second I saw it, I froze. The closet door creaked open, not all the way, just a few inches, and a hand slid out. A gloved hand, not shaking, not twitching, reaching, like it was feeling the air, testing how close it could get to me without being seen. I didn't move, didn't breathe. My entire body felt paralyzed, like even blinking would set it off. The hand paused, curled into a fist, and slowly, silently, slipped back into the dark. The door didn't shut. It just stayed open. And that's how I stayed until sunrise. Back pressed against the opposite wall, eyes locked on the closet, heart beating so hard I swear I heard blood in my ears. When the sun finally came up, I forced myself to move. I grabbed the baseball bat under my bed and yanked the closet open. It was empty. Nothing but clothes, shoes, and that old suitcase I hadn't touched in months. No footprints, no glove, no sign anyone had ever been there. Except one thing, taped to the inside of the door, with what looked like a piece of medical gauze soaked in something red, was a photo. Not a printed one. A real, old-school Polaroid. It showed me, sleeping, face half covered by a blanket, mouth slightly open, the tiny scar under my left eye from when I fell off my bike as a kid clearly visible. And in the top right corner of the photo, you could just barely make out a man's silhouette, standing in the corner of my room, wearing a hoodie with a torn orange bear claw. The next day, I checked into a motel off the interstate, one of those cigarette burn on the bed, blood stain on the curtains kind of places. It was the only place that felt anonymous enough to sleep without losing my mind. I figured I'd stay a night, then figure out where to go next. Maybe visit my cousin in Pennsylvania. Maybe burn everything I own and start over in another country. Who knows? But that night, I couldn't help myself. I reopened my laptop. I wanted to know if the stream was still out there. Not to watch it again. God, no. Just to see if it was real. If I could find it again, maybe I could prove to myself this wasn't all some psychotic spiral. I went back to the Tor browser, typed in the exact .onion link Marcus had sent me. At first, the screen was black. Then that same red loading symbol showed up, flickering like a dying heartbeat. And then it loaded, but it wasn't the same stream. This one was titled Live, Viewer number 1400C72, Return of the Witness. There was no countdown, no intro, just a flicker of static, and then the feed began. The screen showed a live camera feed of a motel room, my motel room. Same ugly green walls, same crooked lampshade, same me sitting on the bed, staring at my laptop like some kind of idiot. I jumped back, eyes darting around the room. No camera, no red light, no blinking device. I flipped the TV off, checked the vents, looked under the bed. Nothing, but the stream was still running. Then someone stepped into frame behind me on the stream. A figure in a blood-spattered hoodie, masked face, gloves, same as before. But now, he was closer, much closer, and in his right hand, he held a meat cleaver. Not just any cleaver, the same one from the dark web stream Marcus had shown me. I recognized it instantly. The deep rust patches, the chip in the blade, like someone had slammed it into bone too many times. He raised it. I spun around in real life, screaming, shaking, and slammed the laptop shut. There was no one behind me. I ripped the sheets off the bed, tossed the drawers. Nothing. Empty. But the sound, that static hum, was still in my ears. It hadn't come from the laptop. It was coming from inside the mattress. I tore it open with my room key, hands shaking, foam and springs flying everywhere, and buried between the stuffing was a tiny red blinking camera. Taped to it was a note, just one word, closer. That's when I snapped. I ran outside, barefoot, laptop under my arm, and went straight to the nearest police station. I told them everything, dumped the entire story on them like a madman, showed them the photos, the email, even ripped the camera out of my motel mattress and slammed it on the counter. They confiscated it all, said they'd investigate. That was 3 weeks ago. I haven't heard anything since. But 2 nights ago, I got another email. No subject, no sender, just a video file. And when I opened it, I couldn't move. It was me, sleeping, again. But this time, there was audio, a voice, whispering over and over in a low, ragged whisper. You watched. Now they watch you. And underneath the bed, in the video, something moved. I don't think I exist anymore. Not in the normal way. Not in a person way. The world around me feels like it's decaying in slow motion. The air doesn't feel like air. It feels like breath. Like someone else's breath is hovering around me at all times, waiting for me to exhale so it can crawl inside. Since that video came in, the one of me sleeping with the whispering voice and the thing under the bed, I haven't slept once. I haven't even blinked properly without checking every corner, every reflection, every shadow. I've moved motels 3 times. I stopped using my credit card. I even crushed my phone with a rock in the middle of a rest stop parking lot in Ohio after the flashlight started turning on by itself at 3:33 a.m., aimed directly at my face. but somehow they still know where I am. Let me explain what happened next. After I got the video of me sleeping, I tried to convince myself it was old footage. Maybe someone filmed me before and sent it now just to mess with me. I needed that hope, even a sliver, but I couldn't ignore the timestamp in the corner of the video. It said, Rick, live, 12:47 a.m., July 11th. That was the exact time and date I was in the new motel in Nebraska. I even checked the desk clock in the background. There was no denying it. That video was live, and something had been moving under the bed. I left everything: clothes, ID, backpack, laptop. I ran out of that room like it was on fire and didn't look back. I didn't even take the key. I think the night clerk tried to say something to me when I ran past the front desk, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. 2 nights later, I found myself in some tiny town outside Salt Lake City. Couldn't tell you the name. It was the kind of place where gas stations double as diners, and everyone has that pale, empty look in their eyes, like they know they don't actually exist on Google Maps. I bought a burner phone from a Walmart, paid cash, no SIM card, just Wi-Fi and offline notes. I only used it to keep track of what I was seeing, the things that started happening once I got to that town. And that's when things got worse, much worse. The first incident happened at the laundromat. It was around 2 a.m. because, yeah, I only went out at night now. I was sitting by the dryers, hoodie up, eyes darting at every noise, when I noticed a woman sitting across from me. Long black hair, gray hoodie, same exact hoodie Marcus wore in high school, but faded and torn at the seams. I didn't see her face. She had it pointed down, like she was reading something on her lap. At first, I ignored her, but then I noticed something off. She hadn't blinked, not once, not even when the automatic door opened and slammed shut behind me. Her eyes just stared, unblinking, at her hands. I squinted. She wasn't holding a phone. She was holding a photo. I stood up and slowly walked over, pretending to check the vending machine. Got just close enough to see what was on the paper. It was a picture of me, standing in front of Marcus's apartment door, the blood writing still fresh. The photo was wet, like someone had dipped it in cold water and let it dry half-baked. And then, without moving her head, she spoke. "You're next." Not whispered. Said. Calm. Flat. Like she was reading the weather. I backed up so fast I knocked over a chair. She didn't move. Didn't look up. I sprinted out of there. Ran down the block. Crossed the street. Didn't stop until I was 2 miles away and my lungs were knives. I slept in a dumpster that night, behind a Dollar Tree. Wrapped myself in a trash bag and prayed nothing touched me. But something did. I woke up the next morning with deep scratches on my forearm. 3 straight lines. Red. Swollen. Still warm to the touch. But not from a person. I know what fingernail scratches look like. These were too precise. Too long. Almost like talons. I started recording everything I could. Not videos. I didn't trust cameras anymore. Just scribbled notes, diagrams, symbols. I remembered the "Who's next" message on the wall and began comparing it to everything I saw around me. And I found more symbols on bathroom stall doors, on the undersides of gas station coffee lids, on a kid's lunchbox left in a parking lot at 4 a.m. A circle, 3 vertical lines running through it, almost like a broken eye. And every time I saw it, I felt watched. It was like the symbol was alive. like looking at it activated something, woke something up. I went to a public library, one of the few places I thought I might still be safe, and started researching symbols, cults, pagan stuff, dark net lore, anything. But the second I typed dark web live streams into the computer, every single monitor in the library, not just mine, flashed red. The lights cut out, and every screen, all 24 of them, showed the same image. Me, tied to a chair, mouth duct-taped, eyes wide and bloodshot, streaming, live. Everyone around me started screaming, running, but I couldn't move. I just sat there, staring at myself on the screens, and then the lights came back. The images were gone. No one looked at me the same after that. Some old guy told me to get the hell out, and the librarian locked the front doors behind me when I left. I walked for hours. I don't remember sleeping, but when I woke up, I was on a park bench, cold, hungry, and with a plastic bag over my head. It had a smiley face drawn on it in what I pray was red marker. Tied to the drawstring was a note. You looked, you listened, you filmed. Now we film you. I destroyed the burner phone after that, smashed it with a rock, and dropped it in a drainage pipe. But that night, something even worse happened. I went to a McDonald's just to feel normal for 10 minutes. Ordered fries, sat by the window, tried to keep my mind blank, and then the cashier brought me a tray. Said someone paid for it for me. I didn't order it. There was a burger, medium fries, and a phone on the tray. An old flip phone. It rang the moment I touched it. My hands trembled as I flipped it open and put it to my ear. What I heard was not a voice. It was breathing, low, animalistic, wet. Then a whisper, one that sounded like it was directly behind my earlobe, even though I was surrounded by people. He's under your skin now. I dropped the phone, knocked over the tray. People looked at me like I was insane, but no one stopped me as I ran out. I'm writing this now from a public library 2 states over. The lights are flickering again. I know they're close. I keep feeling things moving inside me. Twitches in my neck, spasms in my chest. Something isn't right. I saw my reflection earlier. There was someone standing behind me in the mirror. They weren't there when I turned around. And my eyes, they were bleeding, just like Marcus's. I don't know how much time I have. I'm in a storage unit, locked from the outside. My nails are cracked. My skin is raw from clawing at the metal walls, hoping someone hears me. Anyone. I haven't eaten in 3 days. There's a dead rat in the corner, half of it missing like something else was trapped in here with me before. And the worst part is, there's still Wi-Fi. Not normal Wi-Fi. Not like Starbucks or some unlocked router from the gas station across the highway. I mean something else. Something that shouldn't exist in a sealed metal box. The network name? You'll live. Let me tell you how I got here. Let me tell you about him. After I saw my bleeding eyes in the library mirror, something inside me finally broke. I started walking, not running, not driving, just walking, town to town, state to state. I didn't sleep, didn't stop. I followed the signs. And by signs, I mean the symbols. That broken eye circle, it was everywhere. Subway tunnels, hospital parking garages, graffitied under bridges like a secret language only the marked could read. Each one I found pointed to the next, like a trail of filth. They led me to a bar in Oregon that didn't exist on Apple Maps. No sign outside, just a red door and a flickering neon open sign that buzzed like an insect was stuck inside it. Inside, there was no music, no bartender, Just people sitting silently, watching TVs that weren't plugged in, static on every screen, eyes glassy. No one blinked. I tried to leave. The door didn't open. One of the TVs changed. The static faded. And there it was. Me, sitting in that same storage unit I'm in now. But the walls weren't metal in the video. They were made of skin, veiny, wet, breathing slightly like lungs that had forgotten how to exhale. I screamed, and the people turned to look at me. All at once, every single head moved like puppets yanked by strings. One of them grinned, and that's when I saw it. His teeth weren't real. They were camera lenses. Dozens of tiny GoPro lenses mounted on gums like fangs, all blinking red. He whispered, "You're the finale." I woke up here, in this box. I don't remember how I got in. My clothes were soaked. My wrists had bruises shaped like hands. Too many hands. Like a crowd had dragged me in. But not a crowd of people. A crowd of something else. Things that still had fingers, but had forgotten how to be human. There's no light except for my phone screen, and when I turned it on, the camera automatically opened, front-facing, like it was recording. There was no option to turn it off, no exit, no minimize, only one button, stream. When I pressed it, yes, I pressed it, because at this point, what even matters anymore? It started a countdown. 3, 2, 1, then nothing, just black. I thought it failed, but then I heard it, the breathing, behind me, not loud, not angry, patient, like something that had waited a long, long time for this moment. I turned around, phone light trembling in my hands, and he was there, not a man, not an animal, something in between. He was wearing skin like clothes, layers of it, stitched together from all the people who had watched. You could see Marcus's hoodie in the pile, a girl's scalp with bleach tips, a baby's sock nailed to his chest, and over his face, my face, like someone had printed my Instagram profile picture and stapled it to a mannequin's head, except it moved. The eyes blinked, the mouth opened, and he spoke in my voice. You watched. You invited us in. Now they're watching through you. I blacked out. When I woke up again, the phone screen was cracked, but the camera was still on, still streaming. I screamed. I screamed until my throat bled and my voice stopped sounding human. I slammed the phone against the wall. It didn't break. I pulled my hoodie strings and tried to hang it from the ceiling. It wouldn't die. Nothing kills the stream. Nothing. Just now, the stream chat reappeared on screen. I didn't know it was a live chat until the text started pouring in. Who's he? Is this real? OMG, I found this on a Discord link. LMOO. He looks like he's gonna cry. Where's the kill? This better not be fake. Yo, he's looking at the camera now. They're watching. They don't think it's real. They think I'm acting. They're laughing. And I can hear them now. The stream is two-way. Their phones are open. Their screens are glowing. And every single viewer is about to find out. It spreads through the screen. One final message just popped up in the chat. From an account with no name. Just a blinking red dot. It says, "Time to switch hosts." I feel it. In my spine. In my bones. Something is crawling out of my eyes. I can't stop it. The camera just flipped. Now it's back facing. It's recording all of you. You should have looked away when you had the chance. You watched. And now, it watches back. We paid a guy on the dark web to take us to an alien crash site in Utah. He's missing, the Jeep's destroyed, and something's outside my tent. Alright, I don't usually post on Reddit, but I've been up all night shaking, and I need to get this out before I lose my mind. If I disappear after this, someone please just know that we weren't lying. This really happened. This all started about 3 weeks ago when my two best friends, Eli and Jonah, came over to my apartment in Denver. We were just hanging out, scrolling through TikTok and watching some weird true alien sightings videos on YouTube. You know, the usual rabbit hole after 2 a.m. Somehow, we stumbled on this clip that showed a guy exploring an abandoned military facility in Utah, supposedly near an alien crash site. Now, I'm usually a skeptical guy, but I've always had this weird fascination with aliens. Like not the green guys with huge heads or whatever, but the military cover-up, weird radio frequencies, shadows moving in the desert type of aliens, stuff you hear on r/high strangeness or those cursed late-night AM radio stations. So anyway, we keep digging, and Eli pulls up this Reddit post in r/conspiracy. It was deleted 5 minutes after we found it, but someone screenshotted the text. If you're serious about seeing the site for yourself, there's a guy on the deep web who'll take you. Goes by No Face UFO. Paid guide. Doesn't talk much. You meet him in Moab, Utah. We thought it was just another internet myth, like Slender Man meets Breaking Bad. But Jonah, who's always been the tech guy in our group, got way too into it. He had Tor running in 10 minutes. Within a few hours, he found a forum. Not r/deep web stuff. This was real sketch. Low res, all black background. User IDs like 9xy_73ghost. We had to solve a CAPTCHA that looked like it was drawn in blood. Like literally, it said, trace the circle to verify you're not law enforcement. And boom, there he was. No Face UFO. He had an entire thread up, last active 5 days ago. Said he only took small groups, 2 to 3 max, charged in crypto, of course, and guaranteed access to the Utah anomaly. He warned that cell service wouldn't be available and no photos or videos were allowed past the second marker. We were dumb enough to laugh that off. I'll admit, it felt like a joke at first, like a dare. We were 21, bored, and full of dumb confidence. We pooled money. Each of us dropped like $300 in Bitcoin and sent it to his wallet. He messaged back an hour later. Meet me outside the old Wendy's in Moab, July 19th, 8 p.m. Bring only what you need. The rest you'll leave behind. The dude didn't give a name, didn't confirm receipt, just that. We almost bailed. Almost. But then Jonah found an old tweet. It was from this UFO Twitter account called @EyesAboveUtah. The tweet had a photo posted months earlier, a screenshot of Google Earth showing an area just outside Moab. The trees formed this weird pattern, like a spiral burned into the forest. The timestamp said it had been altered by the USGS. I didn't think much of it, until Jonah pulled up our meeting spot on Google Maps, and the Wendy's was right on the edge of that spiral. Still felt like a prank, until we got to Utah. We left Denver on July 18th. I drove. We packed one tent, canned food, battery banks, and Eli brought his GoPro hidden inside a metal water bottle, just in case. We figured we'd film a mini documentary for YouTube or something. The drive was weird. Like, we kept seeing the same white Toyota Tacoma. No plates, tinted windows. It passed us like 4 times. Always slow, never turning. It gave me that gut drop feeling, you know. But I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be that guy freaking out over nothing. We got to Moab around 6:30 p.m. the next day. The Wendy's was long abandoned, graffiti everywhere, like someone had spray painted "Don't go into the earth" across the drive-thru window. Cops never seemed to care. We parked, waited, watched TikToks, and ate gas station donuts while nervously joking about being kidnapped or dissected by the government. Then, at exactly 7:58 p.m., this rusted black Jeep pulled up. It had no lights on, just appeared from the darkness like it rose out of the asphalt. Guy inside looked like a desert ghost. Sunglasses, gray hoodie, not a word. He held out a walkie-talkie and just stared. Jonah took it. The guy pointed to the trunk. We opened it, and inside were 3 black backpacks, already packed. Each one had a flashlight, a thermal blanket, bottled water, a military-grade mask, like something you'd wear in a sandstorm or a biohazard, and a laminated card with 3 rules. Do not speak once we pass the second marker. Do not remove the mask after nightfall. If I say run, you run. Do not look back. He got out, didn't say a word, just nodded at us to follow. I swear I tried to laugh, like, this is so Blair Witch. But something in me started screaming. I felt it deep in my chest, like something was off about the air around him. We left our phones in the car. He made us. It was dark when we entered the desert. The Jeep's headlights were off the entire time, but somehow he knew exactly where he was going. No GPS, just long stretches of dead shrubs and sand and occasional metal fencing that looked older than the road itself. We drove for what felt like an hour. Then he stopped, got out, walked 15 feet to a rusted pole sticking out of the sand. There was an old sign with peeling red paint. Couldn't read it. He pointed. This is the first marker, he said. First words all night. He got back in, and that's when we saw it. As we kept going, the Jeep's lights suddenly flicked on. Not headlights. Black light. Yeah, UV. The sand around us. It glowed, like symbols. Dozens, hundreds, carved into the desert floor, glowing purple and green under the light. Some looked like equations. Others looked like faces, not human. Twisted, spiraled, screaming. It felt like we were driving on a living circuit board. Eli whispered, "What the hell is this?" Then the guy slammed the brakes and said one word. "Second marker." He turned off the lights, tossed us the masks. Then he said the last thing we'd hear from him. "Don't speak. Don't take this off. Follow close." We put the masks on. My chest was tight. I couldn't tell if it was from fear or the air itself. It smelled wrong, like burnt electronics and ammonia. We started walking. No flashlights, no noise. I could hear something out there though, something crawling, far off in the sand. We walked for what felt like an hour. Then, out of nowhere, a low hum filled the air, like when you hold your phone next to a speaker, but heavier, like it was inside our skulls. And that's when I saw the shape, huge, metallic, buried halfway in the sand, lights pulsing slow, like a heartbeat. It didn't look human, not even close. Then I turned to tell Jonah, but he was gone, and so was the guy. Just me, Eli, and the sound of something breathing right behind us. We stood there in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by an ocean of whispering sand and silence so thick it sounded like the earth itself was holding its breath. Jonah was gone. No footsteps, no sounds, just vanished, like he'd been lifted out of existence. Eli grabbed my arm. His eyes were wide behind the mask. I could see the reflection of something in his lenses, something moving just past the curve of the crash site, slithering, almost like it was crawling sideways. but the air shimmered too, like heat waves had turned solid and were bending the space around us. We should have turned back right then, but we didn't. We couldn't, because when I turned around to try and backtrack, the Jeep was gone. Gone. Not just hidden. Gone. Like there was no sign of the path we took. No tire tracks. No first marker. Just endless dunes and black sky full of stars that looked way too sharp, like they were watching us back. Then we heard it. This low vibrating growl that sounded like it was being filtered through broken radio static. It started far off, then got closer, way too fast. Eli dropped his mask and sprinted toward the crash site without thinking. I yelled after him, but it was too late. I had no choice but to follow. The moment we stepped into the hollow beneath the wreckage, the sound cut out completely. Just gone, like a door had slammed shut behind us. The hum that had been shaking the air just vanished, replaced with a silence that was somehow even worse. The wreck itself. I can't even describe it without sounding insane. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't some Hollywood saucer. It looked like a giant ribcage, partially buried in the sand, but metallic and pulsing faintly, like it was alive. There were thin silver wires hanging like veins from the ceiling and walls, some of them moving on their own, twitching like they were trying to find something to plug into. The inside was cold, not dessert cold, morgue cold, and the walls weren't smooth. They were covered in this weird, bumpy texture, like barnacles or teeth, small, human-looking teeth. Some were still bloody. Eli stumbled ahead of me, hands shaking, whispering, "This isn't real. This isn't real. It's a set or something. It has to be." But then we saw the bodies. I swear to God, they weren't decayed. They were preserved, like they'd been stored in perfect condition, some of them still breathing shallow, even though they looked half dead. All of them had something covering their faces, not masks, skin. Skin that didn't match their bodies, like someone had stretched other people's faces over theirs, sewed it with that same twitching wire from the walls. One guy had a Starbucks apron still on him. Another had a Disneyland crew jacket. A woman had an iPhone 14 Pro still buzzing in her jacket pocket, with 9 unread texts from someone named Mom. The last one read, "Where are you?" They said the guy never came back from Utah. I turned to Eli to tell him we needed to go, but he was gone. Again, same exact way as Jonah. No scream, no sound, just missing. I was alone. I reached for my mask and realized I was bleeding from my ears. Just trickles, but real. The silence was doing something to my head. It wasn't just quiet. It was eating noise. Even my own heartbeat sounded muffled. And then, something touched my ankle. I looked down and saw fingers. Gray, boneless fingers reaching out of the sand, wrapping around my leg like they were trying to pull me into the ground. Their nails were black. Their skin looked like candle wax that had been melted, then frozen again. I kicked, screamed through my mask, and scrambled backward until I hit the wall of the wreck. The wall opened, not like a door, more like a mouth. It peeled open silently, revealing a corridor of meat and metal, lined with blinking red lights and rows of coffins. Each one had a small glass window, and every window had a face staring out. Some were dead, some weren't. One of them was Jonah. His face was twisted in panic, mouth moved silently, like he was underwater. His eyes were bloodshot, red veins spiderwebbing out to the edges. He was slamming his fists against the glass, but no sound came out. And I swear, on everything. Behind him, something was crawling in the dark. It was all arms and no face, just a gaping hole where the head should have been, filled with wires and broken teeth, spinning like gears. It moved like it was stitched together from different people, mismatched limbs twitching out of sync. Then it lunged at the coffin. Jonah disappeared in a blink. The light in his coffin went out, and all the others turned to look at me. I ran. I don't remember how I got out. I just remember crawling, breathing blood, trying not to scream. My mask had cracked, and my nose was pouring. My thoughts felt scrambled, like radio interference. I had flashes in my head of things I didn't understand. A school bus half buried in sand, filled with silent children, all pointing at me. A desert tree made of bones and antennas, swaying in a wind that didn't exist. A Starbucks cup filled with what looked like eyeballs, one of them blinking. I finally collapsed outside the wreck, choking on dry air. My limbs didn't feel real. My arms had writing carved into them, letters I couldn't read. They looked burned into my skin. I still have the scars, but it gets worse. When I looked up, the desert had changed. There were no structures around me, like rusted towers made from old gas station signs, bones and car parts. They weren't there before. I was surrounded, trapped in a circle of junk that hadn't existed 10 minutes earlier. That's when I saw Eli. He was standing on one of the towers, naked, but it wasn't really him. He was stitched together, sloppy, like a bad puppet. One of his arms was on backward. His eyes had been replaced with glass lenses, like old binoculars. His mouth opened like a broken speaker, and I heard his voice, but it was coming out in Morse code. I don't know Morse, but something inside me understood it, and it said, "You saw what you weren't meant to. You let them in. You are a window now." Then the tower he stood on collapsed into sand. Gone. Just like that. The lights went out. The desert was empty again. I woke up in my tent, alone. The backpack was beside me, but different. The card inside now had new rules. You are not supposed to see the core. Do not bring anything back. If you dream of the glass faces, tell no one. You are not who you were. I stumbled outside. The Jeep was still gone. No face UFO. No sign. But Jonah's phone was half buried in the sand, still on. There were 3 new videos. No thumbnails. Just static. Each one was labeled with a timestamp. 3:33 a.m. 4:44 a.m. 6:66 a.m. That last one still haunts me. That time doesn't even exist. I haven't watched them yet. I can't, because sometimes, at night, my phone turns on by itself, and when I check it, the clock always says 6:66 a.m., even when it's midnight, and outside my window, there's something moving in the trees. It taps on the glass, and waits for me to fall asleep. I don't sleep anymore. I can't. Not after what happened when I did. After I escaped the desert. After I thought I made it back to some kind of safety. Back to my tent. Back to a normal night sky. It was a lie. Whatever followed me out of that wreck is still here, and it doesn't wait in the sand anymore. It waits in the reflections. Let me explain what happened the night I tried to leave Utah. After I found Jonah's phone half buried outside my tent, I didn't even bother trying to check for signal. I knew there wouldn't be any. I just shoved the phone into my pocket and started walking. I didn't know where I was going. North, maybe. I just walked. For hours. The sun never rose. It stayed this sickly gray, like dusk frozen in place. The desert was wrong. The dunes were shaped like faces, all screaming. No wind, no insects, just silence, except for this low clicking that came from under my feet every few minutes. Eventually, I found a road. Or, I thought it was a road. It was made of flattened bones, human bones, crushed so thin they looked like tiles. The closer I looked, the more I saw fingernails embedded in the pavement, scrape marks, like people had tried to crawl away, but got fused into the ground. I don't even remember making the choice. I just walked it. Eventually, it led to a gas station. At first glance, it looked normal. A Shell station, flickering sign, gas pump still standing, door wide open, like time had frozen it somewhere in the 90s, except there was no dust, no rust, no bugs, like it had just been built. Every window was spotless, every aisle was perfectly stocked, and behind the register was Eli, smiling, wearing his hoodie, same dumb patch he stitched into it back in college, same cracked phone sticking out of his pocket. I didn't move. He tilted his head. "Pump 3's open," he said, grinning. His voice wasn't right. It didn't echo properly. It was like hearing audio played backwards and then reversed again. A sound that fought to exist in your brain. My vision started to blur at the edges, like static. I backed away, and he smiled wider. His teeth were identical, perfectly aligned, as if someone had copied the same tooth 32 times. No tongue, just a flat surface inside his mouth, like a plug. Then he said something else. He said my name, but he said it in Jonah's voice. That's when the lights flickered, and for just a second, I saw what he really was. His face was wearing Eli's skin, like a loose glove, but underneath, the thing was faceless, smooth and wet, like boiled flesh. Its arms were way too long, ending in these split fingers that peeled open like rotten bananas. I could see nerves twitching inside them. I ran into the back of the station, slammed the door, locked it. There was a mirror in there, a cracked one, hanging above a sink that had no plumbing beneath it. I looked into it, and I wasn't there. The mirror showed the gas station, but I was missing, like I'd been edited out. In my place was a shadow, a silhouette filled with spinning numbers and static. My reflection had red lightning crawling through it, like it was trying to crack through the glass and enter the room. That's when I noticed the walls. They were covered in photos, thousands of Polaroids, no labels, no dates, just people, faces frozen mid-scream. Some were in beds, others in diners, in school buses, in McDonald's uniforms. One woman was still wearing a Target name tag. One man was crucified to a wall of shopping carts, but all of them had no eyes, and every single photo had a hole punched through the head. Perfect circle, dead center. I turned to leave, but the room had no door anymore. There was just the mirror, and it was rippling. I don't remember what happened next. I must have blacked out. When I woke up, I was outside, lying in the middle of the desert again. The gas station was gone, nothing but flat sand behind me. But I wasn't alone. Something was standing in the distance, wearing my clothes. It didn't move, just stood there, cocking its head like it was trying to figure me out. I couldn't see its face. It looked blurry, like someone had censored it in real life. Then it did something that made me want to vomit. It took a step forward, and its legs broke backward. Both knees cracked in reverse, and the bones reset themselves instantly, like the laws of nature didn't apply to whatever it was. And it smiled at me, my smile, perfectly. Every scar, every chip in my tooth. It even had the same cut on my palm that I got when I was 13. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I knew if I made a sound, it would come closer. It started copying my breathing, then my heartbeat. I could feel it inside me, matching, tuning itself. Then it whispered something I'll never forget. You left them behind. You're the reason they screamed. They said your name when they died. I ran. It didn't chase. But as I ran, I passed by 3 more versions of myself, each one more decayed. One had no skin. One had no head, just a TV embedded in its neck, playing my childhood home movies. One had arms sewn shut and flies crawling from its eyes. I kept running until my legs gave out. When I collapsed, I was suddenly on asphalt, a real road. Cars passed, normal cars. One guy yelled at me to get off the shoulder. I must have looked like hell. My face was caked in dried blood, and my hands were still twitching. I made it back, or thought I did. I got home 2 days later. Somehow. I don't even remember how I got a ride. I just remember being in a Greyhound bus, staring out the window, while the same white Toyota Tacoma passed us 5 times. I've been back in Denver for a week now, and the first thing I did was plug in Jonah's phone. Bad idea. There were 4 videos now. One of them had no thumbnail, just a black screen. When I clicked it, it showed a live stream of my bedroom, my actual room. Right now, I turned around. Nothing. I looked back at the screen, and there was something standing in the corner, exactly where I'd just looked. Tall, still, wearing my face. I slammed the laptop shut, burned the phone in my kitchen sink. Didn't matter. The next morning, my phone, my actual iPhone, was sitting on my nightstand with a new message from a number I didn't recognize. No words, just a photo. Me, sleeping, taken from inside my closet. Since then, I've started getting these weird nosebleeds. Random, no warning. And sometimes, when I open TikTok or Instagram, my camera activates by itself. But it's not showing me. It shows a version of my room where the shadows are wrong. Too long, moving when I don't. I've also started noticing people following me, but only in reflections. Starbucks windows, rearview mirrors, store security cameras. They look like strangers, until I look longer. Then I realize they have my jawline, my haircut, my eyes, not copies, stolen, taken from me. I finally got a text last night, from Eli's number. It shouldn't be possible. He's dead. But the text said, "You shouldn't have looked into the glass. They're coming to finish the replication. Your bones will speak for them now. You're not a person, you're a broadcast." And then the screen glitched, and my wallpaper changed by itself. It now shows a satellite view of my apartment building, but the label on the map doesn't say Denver. It says anomaly, active, identity transfer, 83% complete. And the weirdest thing? My reflection. It stopped matching my movements. You know how sometimes you hear something that doesn't make sense, but your body understands it before your brain does? That's what it felt like when I heard my own voice whispering from inside my walls. Every night since I got back, the noises have been getting worse. I started sleeping with my closet door duct taped shut. Every mirror in the apartment is covered with aluminum foil. I don't own any reflective surfaces anymore. Not even my damn phone screen. Shattered it with a hammer after I caught it recording me while it was off. Still didn't help, because last night something climbed out from under my kitchen sink. I'm not joking. I watched it. It wasn't fast. It moved like someone learning how to walk for the first time. A twitching, skin-wrapped shape, slithering up from the drain, snapping its bones into place as it unfolded. Its fingers scraped the tile, clicking like typewriter keys. I tried to run, but I couldn't. My legs locked. My body literally refused to move, like something had hijacked my muscles. My phone started vibrating in my pocket, hard enough to feel like it was drilling into my leg. I pulled it out. One new file. It had no name, no timestamp, just a thumbnail. A frozen image of me, duct taped to my chair. Exactly what I was doing at that moment. The thing under the sink stood fully upright now. It was wearing my hoodie. The same hoodie Eli borrowed the day we left Denver. The arms were too long. Its shoulders cracked with every twitch. It didn't have a face, just skin pulled tightly where one should have been, stitched shut with surgical wire. But it still made a sound when it moved, a kind of wet laughing, but it wasn't laughing with a mouth. The sound came from the seams of its skin, like breath forced through 100 tiny wounds. Then it dropped something. It was a USB drive, silver, burned symbols scratched onto the metal. I picked it up only because my brain was screaming to do something, anything. As soon as I touched it, my nose exploded with blood. My hand spasmed. My vision went dark for 2 full seconds. When I opened my eyes, the thing was gone. I plugged the USB into a burner laptop I hadn't touched since college. I had to wrap the port in duct tape to get it to read. It felt too cold, like the USB had been frozen in dry ice. It auto-played a video. No interface, no pause button, full screen. It started with static, then a black room. Then the camera turned on. It was handheld, wobbling, pointed at Jonah. He was alive, tied to a chair in what looked like a hospital basement, soaked in sweat. There were wires shoved into his back, poking out through fresh stitches. He was drooling, mumbling something. His lips were split, teeth broken. I paused the video and threw up in my bathroom sink, came back and pressed play. The video zoomed in on his face. His pupils were spirals, swirling inward like a drain. Something was behind the camera, breathing. Then Jonah whispered, "It learned us. It played us like a piano made of skin. It's going to wear me into the world." The camera turned. There was a table behind him, with faces on it. Not masks. Actual faces, peeled off, pressed flat like wet leaves. One of them was Eli. One looked like my dad. The third was me. I started hyperventilating. Then the video glitched. Badly. It cut to another feed. A night vision shot of my apartment hallway. The timestamp said 10 minutes from now. I stared in shock. Nothing moved at first. Then the camera panned slightly left, facing my front door. 3 knocks. I heard them in real life. Same rhythm. I dropped the laptop, scrambled to the bathroom, locked the door. I had no weapons, nothing but a broken toothbrush and a can of Febreze. The knocks came again, this time from inside the bathroom, right behind the mirror. I backed away, and the mirror cracked. From the inside, I stayed locked in that room for 3 hours, until sunlight started bleeding through the tiny bathroom window. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I kept seeing shadows through the crack beneath the door, pacing, stopping, breathing like someone was smelling me. Eventually, I left. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. The laptop was gone, but the USB drive was still in the port, smoking. I went to the police. Of course I did. Walked into the downtown Denver station, bloodshot eyes reeking like fear. I told them everything, every single word. I even handed them the USB. You know what the cop said? We'll file a report. That's it. He smiled while saying it. Smiled too long. Then he leaned in close and said, without moving his lips, You're almost ready. Just a few more fractures in the self. Then you'll be hollow enough to let it in. I ran out of there so fast, I left my backpack behind. When I got home, my neighbor was waiting for me. Mrs. Patel, sweet old lady, feeds the stray cats. We've barely ever spoken. She just stood outside my door, smiling. Do you smell it? She asked. Do you smell the memory rotting? Then she handed me a package. No return address. Wrapped in butcher paper. Inside, a McDonald's uniform. Crisp, still warm. And inside the breast pocket, Eli's tongue, folded like a note. On it, written in Sharpie, Wear this and you can stay. Since that night, I've started losing time. I'll blink and suddenly be standing in a different room. Sometimes outside, sometimes in front of mirrors I didn't own. Once I woke up at 3:33 a.m. inside a school bathroom. Children's drawings covered the walls, but the heads were missing from all the stick figures. Instead, every drawing had my face, in crayon. Another time, I woke up at the foot of a Starbucks drive-thru, wrapped in thermal blankets. A single paper bag beside me with a receipt that read, One replication complete. Host compliant. I haven't left my apartment in 3 days, but food keeps appearing in my fridge. Leftovers I never cooked. Milk that isn't cold but hasn't spoiled. Eggs with names written on them. And now my reflection is smiling when I'm not. Last night was the worst. I dreamed, if you can call it a dream, that I was back in the wreck. But this time, I wasn't me. I was something else. Something tall, hunched, hungry. I walked through the corridors of wire and skin. My arms split open and stitched themselves closed again. My bones clicked backwards with every step. I passed by a wall lined with jars. Each jar contained a voice, screaming, whimpering, begging. My voice, Eli's voice, Jonah's voice, dozens of others, all collected, catalogued. I stopped in front of a giant mirror made of liquid. The thing wearing my skin looked back at me. It didn't blink. It whispered, You are not the main broadcast. You are the commercial break. They needed a shape. You gave them yours. Then I woke up to the sound of my own laugh outside my bedroom door. Not the one I have now. The one I had when I was 6. I finally went back to the site this morning. I had to. Something told me it wasn't over. Not yet. But when I got to the spot, there was nothing there. No sand, no symbols, no spiral trees, just concrete. Pave over. Government trucks on the horizon. Signs posted every 30 feet. No entry. Federal property. Area 519. And standing near the edge, a man in a black hoodie. He turned slowly. It was no-face UFO. Except, he had my face now. He held up a walkie-talkie and spoke one word. Transmission. You want the ending? Are you sure? Because once I tell you what happened next, it stays with you. Do you know what a transmission really is? It's not just data, not just sound waves or electromagnetic pulses, not just binary code. A true transmission is a contagion, a signal that invades, infects, converts, corrupts. And when no-face UFO raised that walkie-talkie to his mouth, I felt something inside my spine fold, like my body recognized the signal before my brain could comprehend it. My knees buckled, my jaw locked in place, my vision blurred, but only the real world blurred. The sky, the trucks, the road, all of it smudged, like a painting left out in the rain. But he, the one wearing my face, was perfectly clear. High definition, unfiltered, but he, the one wearing my face, was perfectly clear. High definition, unfiltered, like a surgical broadcast cutting through reality. He spoke, but it wasn't English, wasn't human. It sounded like thousands of voices screaming through AM static, all layered at once, stuttering out from the walkie-talkie in bursts. My teeth chattered, not from fear, but from resonance. And behind him, the desert began to peel open. That's the only way I can describe it. Like the air split along invisible zippers, unfastening from itself to reveal something underneath. A second desert, darker, pulsing, covered in tower-like growths made of TVs, radios, mouths. The crash site hadn't vanished. It had moved. Number it had been folded beneath this fake world like a page in a cursed pop-up book, hidden in the seams of reality. And now, they were unfolding it. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. I could feel words forming in my throat, but they weren't mine. I wasn't in control. Every syllable burned as it passed through my vocal cords like hot wire. My skin bubbled, my fingers cracked backward, and my thoughts began leaking out of my ears like a broken speaker. And still, he kept speaking. No-Face UFO stepped aside, revealing something behind him. A tower of faces, human faces. Hundreds, maybe thousands, stitched into a giant vertical banner of skin, fluttering in a wind that wasn't there. Some of them were alive, eyes blinking in rapid Morse code. Some were clearly still mouthing prayers. Others were chewing, not on food, on themselves. The tower writhed. At its base, I saw something crawling. It had too many arms, too many knees, and it dragged a massive sack behind it, like Santa Claus, if Santa carried abandoned identities. One of the faces in the sack was mine, still fresh, still blinking, and stitched into its forehead, burned in by a brand, was a word I hadn't seen before. Rebroadcast. That's when I saw them, Jonah and Eli, or what was left of them. They were crucified to opposite ends of the face tower, still alive, eyes wide open with barbed cable, lungs visibly inflating, slow, mechanical. But it wasn't them anymore. They looked like shells with strangers behind their eyes, watching me like I was the animal in a cage. Eli tried to move his mouth. The wires were so tight, his lips split. Blood ran like ink. He mouthed one word. Run. I finally moved. I don't know how. Maybe something inside me, whatever piece of me wasn't infected yet, snapped back to the surface. I sprinted toward the trucks, toward the illusion of normalcy. But the closer I got to the border of the normal world, the more warped it became. The trucks weren't trucks. They were organisms, flesh made to look mechanical. I saw exhaust vents, pulsing like gills, windows blinking like eyes, and every door had a screen on it, showing a live feed of me, running. Each screen showed me dying in a different way, torn apart by wire, melted into a wall of static, imploding into a black hole the size of a dime. I didn't stop. I ran until I hit a barbed fence. Razor wire tore through my hands. Didn't care. I climbed, fell, hit pavement. The illusion shattered. I was back on a real road, a highway. Utah, Route 191. Real cars, real headlights, real people. No-Face UFO stood on the other side of the fence and smiled. Then his skin peeled off like wet plastic, and he evaporated into the sky, like a signal. I don't remember getting home, but I remember waking up the next morning to sirens, and something much worse. I was already gone. I was missing, like, officially. My parents called me in. There were posters up, a police report with my full name. But here's the thing, I'm still here. but people don't recognize me anymore. Not my mom, not my co-workers, not even my dog. When I talk, their eyes glaze over, like they're watching a VHS with a tape head dragging. I can hear my words echoing back to me 3 seconds too late. On security footage, I show up as a blurry, static smear. Even my own voice on voicemail plays in reverse. It gets worse. The 5th video, the one with no timestamp. I found it again. Not on the USB, not on my phone, on my tongue. There was a word burned into it. It was in a language I'd never seen before. I stood in front of the mirror, took a photo with a Polaroid. When the photo developed, it wasn't me. It was the thing that had been following me. The one wearing my smile. The one with spiral eyes. Except now, it wasn't just watching. It was holding something. A child. And the child had my mother's face. Do you understand now? This wasn't about aliens. Not really. That was the bait. The real horror is this. There's a signal buried in our world. A broadcast. Alive. Intelligent. Ancient. It hijacks identity. It wears faces. It replaces people. Not with clones, but with reflections made of noise and thought and hunger. We called it an alien crash. It wasn't. It was a receiver, a door, a new channel, opening inside our dimension, and we were the test audience. Final proof? My phone turned on by itself last night. No apps, no icons, just a countdown. 3 dots, 2 dots, 1 dot, dot, dot. Then the screen turned to static, and in that static, I saw your face. Yes, yours. Reading this, right now, and behind you, in the reflection of your screen. Look closer. See it? It's smiling. Transmission. Complete. Rebroadcast pending. You are not alone. You are not you. You are next.